successor, Russ Jones, who I think will provide a lot of great leadership in the coming years, and it's been an honor to serve. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. I would like to introduce our new, it says CEO report, but the name has been changed to Executive Director, so we're going to have the Executive Director report, and Joe is also going to do the Treasurer's report, so it'll be one combined report. Thank you.
Actually, the management report was really, this is a report from all of management. Everybody contributed. So in your
We're not linked.
There we go. Okay. Thank you and good morning. The full management report is posted, Kelly posted that, and a full set of financial statements and the preliminary 2019 budget, so you have access to all those materials. This presentation will just hit on the highlights. Really too much for us to go through everything in the reports. Hopefully this will give you a good idea of what's involved. Membership stands at the end of October at about 165,000 members, down 1,400 year to date. The membership was down last year, 1,300. Year to date, face-to-face club tables are down 1.6%, and online tables are down almost 7%. Temporary memberships. Year to date, we sold about 1,600 temporary memberships. There's really been no significant increase in new membership in the program. And most people purchase a temporary membership just to play in one tournament. Management is proposing to end this program in 2019. New membership programs. Auto renewal is not really a new program, but it's a really important addition to the member renewal process. So we are close to ironing out the technical challenges with doing auto renewal, and once it's complete, we'll establish policies around it and roll it out. Over time, we expect higher renewal rates and savings from reduced printing and mailing costs for renewals. We're also going to roll out approved recruiter incentives. They're in the works for 2019. We are proposing that we pay recruiters $10 for when a member joins and $10 for each of the next 2 renewals. If a new member joins for 3 years, we'll pay $30 for the recruiter. First year cost for that will be about $100,000. We've included that in the budget. We'll formally announce the program and give details early in 2019. We're also working on the concept of an introductory membership. The idea is to give interested players very limited benefits, and in return, we get their contact information, and we can stay in touch with these prospects and encourage them to become full members. Human resources and facilities. So the current head count, 96 full-time, 120 part-time. For 2019, our employee insurance costs are going up about 50%. To give some perspective, in 2017, insurance costs actually went down a little bit. In 2018, they were flat. So this was not an unexpected increase. Also, the energy efficiency project for headquarters was completed this year. So we are already seeing savings from that. We've saved almost $30,000 year to date on our utility costs. The total cost of the project was a little over $100,000. So payback will be 3 years or less on that project. We're really happy with that. Information technology. So we are continuing our efforts to retire our legacy AS400 platform. We've established a roadmap identifying applications and when they will be transitioned off the 400. We've already moved 20% of the applications and expect to be finished by the second quarter of 2020. We are also working on replacing all functionality from ACBL club results with live for clubs. The code is complete on this project and currently being tested. It will be made available to clubs in early 2019. Recently, from an infrastructure perspective, we moved all the accounting applications to the ACBL cloud from another hosted cloud environment. We're going to save $3,000 a month for doing that. Bridge operations. So we continue to see lower permanent table counts. The average regional is down 10%. The average sectional is down 1%. One of the things we're doing in 2019 is to work better with sponsors of tournaments to align our staffing with the tables. So we have this table estimator tool that we'll be rolling out. We've already rolled it out, but we'll be expanding the use in 2019 so that the sponsors and DICs can reach agreement on expected attendance and staffing. Part-time TDs are continuing to extend this year. Marketing. We are continually working to make the website a better resource for our members. For 2018, traffic is up 10%. In 2019, we're going to continue to make improvements. I think we'll probably make some significant improvements. At the end of September, we upgraded the P&L email service. At the end of September, we upgraded the P&L email service. So if somebody had previously unsubscribed from headquarters email, you weren't able to. Units and districts didn't have those people available to email. That's been reset. So all those people are now available to units and districts, and they can manage their own email list. It's separate from the headquarters. I think that's a very important improvement. 2018 financial results. So through October, the bottom line for the financial results are $239,000 better than our budget. Unfortunately, we're expecting a $630,000 loss from this NABC. The initial budget expected a $167,000 loss. So right now, we're looking at attrition charges of $360,000 and reduced revenue of about $100,000 from a lower than expected attendance. We're still negotiating with Hilton, and we're hopeful that these numbers are the worst case scenario and we can get some improvements. But this is a real serious financial impact on our year. So as a result, we're forecasting a $680,000 loss for 2018. In addition to that loss, we'll be writing off the CRM project, which I told you about in Atlanta. Initial estimate was $375,000 write-off. We looked at all the numbers. Some of what we paid for we can still use, so we're not writing off everything. So it's still a $318,000 write-off. 2019 preliminary budget. So the way the budget process works is we bring a budget to board in the fall meeting. It's a preliminary budget. And then we refine it, bring it back in March, and the final budget is approved. The current budget, we worked really hard to align the revenue expenses and have a positive year for 2019. So as of right now, the preliminary budget, which is in your package, full statement is the operating gain is $254,000. Fee increases for 2019. At this board meeting, the board passed motions increasing fees of NABCs and for club short games. These fee increases have been included in the preliminary budget, which is in your package. For NABCs, beginning in December 2019, all game fees except for IM games are increased. And there's also a fee for what's screens or reviews. We also increased the short game fees, which primarily impacts online clubs, from 55 cents to 58 cents. capital budget, $187,000. This is also a preliminary budget. There's really two or three major items in here. We need to replace half the roof at headquarters because it continually leaks. So that's an infrastructure for our building, which is important. We need $40,000 to complete the auto renewal project, and we have a request for $35,000 for data analysis tools. So this is an area that needs lots of improvement. So what we're doing is implementing a data reporting and analytics solution so that we can integrate all our key data into one area, and we can query on it and report on it and allow for much better analytics. All right, available for questions. So if you have any questions, even after the meeting, I'll be available, and I'll be in the office all week. If you want to drop by, and we can talk about finances or anything else in the management report. Thank you.
I have a question. Joe, I have a question.
Yes.
Joanne Sprung, District 17. Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you.
My question concerns technology. Is anything being done to
But currently there is not.
Well, that'll be under new business.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to have the litigation report. Linda has informed me that we do have a quorum for this meeting, so anything we transact will be official business of the Board of Governors. So thank you for attending. Linda?
Everybody has some.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning. As I say every time, the litigation report will be short and sweet because things are not progressing very quickly. So there's not a lot to report versus what I told you last time. We have two matters that I'm reporting on. Blakely versus ACBL. This is a matter that began in 2016 when a former board member sued the ACBL in state court in California. Mr. Blakely at this point has filed a motion for attorney's fees, which was first denied by the court, meaning they said, no, you are not entitled to your attorney's fees to date. He is in the process of preparing for oral arguments before the court to argue with them a second time to say that yes, indeed, he thinks that he is entitled to attorney's fees. That oral argument we expect to happen sometime in the fourth quarter, and then we'll hear the answer from that. We are just finishing up discovery. It took over 4 months. We delivered over 5,000 individual pieces of paper, either electronically to our attorneys to provide to Mr. Blakely. There are still some outstanding issues that the attorneys are working out, but we expect by the end of the year that we will be finished with discovery and the case will continue on after that. No trial date has been set yet because we're still in discovery. The second case is Peter Marcus and a couple of other tournament directors versus the ACBL. This is from a case in 2017 when former tournament director Peter Marcus sued the ACBL for overtime pay for full-time tournament directors under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Recently, the three plaintiffs went into court and asked the court if they could be the representatives of the tournament, excuse me, of the tournament directors, and the court said yes, you can be the representatives and a class action can proceed against the ACBL. After that happens, the long drawn out process to get a notice together to send to the other tournament directors who are employed by the ACBL to ask them if they want to join the lawsuit. And we take a neutral position to that as the tournament directors make their own decisions whether or not they would like to join. That notice will be sent out to the tournament directors sometime during the fourth quarter, and they will have 30 days or so to return it to the court. And that will establish the entire class of tournament directors who are suing us. That's pretty much it for the litigation. I'm not reporting on the Schreiber case. The ACBL is not involved in that case, except that the unit, who was one of the defendants, is covered by our insurance, which is why I was reporting out to you before. But nothing has happened on that case in the last 4 or 5 months, and so there's nothing to report there. Any questions?
Brett Cuban, District 3. Thank you. Just a question on the class action suit. I assume that the insurance will cover the litigation cost, but what coverage do we have in terms of, if any, for any results that could go against the ACBL in terms of the employment?
It is incredibly hard to get insurance coverage for Fair Labor Standards Act coverage. We were able to get it up to $150,000. So our insurance costs will be covered up to that amount. And after that, the ACBL will foot the entire bill, both in terms of litigation costs and any damages.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Dunn. Bruce Blakely, District 21. I watched the video of the last Board of Governors meeting where you talked about the case that I brought against the ACBL. And you mentioned that there were 2 claims that were not covered by insurance. There was also some discussion between you and members of the Board of Governors regarding a reserve. I have 2 questions. One, what are the 2 claims, if there are 2 claims, that are not being covered by insurance? And why is it that there is no reserve being retained in light of the fact that the ACBL has already offered in excess of 6 figures to settle my case against the ACBL, and also that some of the claims are not covered by insurance?
I will preface my remarks to say I cannot discuss this case with you because you are a litigant who is represented by counsel. So I'm going to refer you back.
Yes, you lost the mic.
I didn't do that. I'm going to refer you back to the tape of the last NABC where I spoke. I don't recall off the top of my head the one that's not covered by insurance, other than breach of contract, which is never covered by insurance. You indicated a few minutes ago it's probably the fraud one. I'll ask the litigators out there. I have to check with our outside counsel as to which one that was. But I can't discuss this case in any amount of detail with you as a litigant.
I'm not asking to discuss it with me as a litigant. I believe that there are people, is this mic on? I believe that at the last NABC meeting of the Board of Governors, there were a number of members of the Board of Governors who were interested in knowing about the reserve. But now that you've indicated that there are some claims that are not covered, and I don't believe that the people of this body are aware that an offer was made to settle this case in excess of 6 figures, which I turned down, it seems as though it is a serious matter for which a reserve should be retained, and there was extensive questioning regarding the reserve in the last meeting. Now, you don't have to talk to me. I'm asking you to talk to the Board of Governors.
You asked a question, sir, so I cannot answer any of your questions. I would refer anyone who's interested back to the tape of the last Board of Governors meeting, which I think covered this in a sufficient amount of detail. Remember, I'm only reporting out to you as a membership organization to let you know the progress of the lawsuits. We do not discuss strategy and tactics in the public, and we certainly do not discuss settlement agreements because settlement agreements are confidential, or settlement discussions are confidential. And any discussion about that should not take place in any open forum.
Gene Simpson, District 21. I'd like to repeat Mr. Blakely's questions to you. If you can't speak to him, you can speak to me.
Once again, I refer you back to the tape of the last meeting, which covered these issues in a sufficient amount of detail, I think. Like, we can't discuss settlement at all in an open forum.
You said you couldn't speak to Mr. Blakely, because he was litigant, but you could speak to the Board of Governors, but not a representative.
Correct. And his question was, what was not covered by insurance? And I say to you, it was a breach of contract claim, and I don't know the second one, but he indicated it might be the fraud claim. I'm not sure on that, so I'd have to answer that at a later time, and I can send that out via email after I talk to our counsel. With respect to the reserve, as I explained in the last meeting, a reserve is based on your view at the time of the probability of damages and an assessment of what those damages are. And if neither of those are knowable, you do not take a reserve.
So,
okay.
What danger are we in of losing a lot of money in this case?
We don't know at that point. We think that the probability is low. So our management assessment at this time is that the probability is low that we will have any damages. And of course, I caution you again, as I did last time, we could be wrong. But our assessment at this time is that the probability is low, and thus, according to a general, GAAP, right, generally accepted accounting principles, we are not in a position at this point to take a reserve. The accountants wouldn't let us do it at this point.
Okay, thank
you. Brian Trent, District 20. Forum to discuss this matter in any shape or form. And in fact, your accountants, because I go through an audit every year, will tell you that until something is basically known, that this is all speculation, and all the requirement is to report out the fact that you're being sued. And that's it. And no other discussion should occur in any forum except within the Board of Directors in executive session.
Doug Koch, District 21. Regarding the FLSA case, I realize it's early, but have the plaintiff stated a claim for treble damages, or is it for claimed overtime?
They claimed the damages under the statute. They claimed statutory damages.
But they're not claiming treble damages. They're not asserting wrongful conduct.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Apparently we are, well, can people hear me? Yes, you can. Okay, thank you, because apparently the mics are causing issues. So I'm going to give the chairman report. The first thing, this is not in the minutes that appear. There were two motions that were made and approved at the Atlanta Board of Governors meeting, which became action items because management agreed to implement them. One is Steve Moses' motion for district and union support for clubs and teachers, and the other one is that the ACBL create proper business metrics for defining where new members are being created. Both of those management has agreed to work on, so I withdrew them. There's no need to codify them because management is going to do those. The next item, obviously you heard that there will be an increase in entry fees starting in Las Vegas. One of the items of expense, it's small relative to everything else, is the cost of this meeting. My understanding is that the average cost to hold this meeting each year in terms of providing the Danish, the continental breakfast is $4,000. If we have 100 people in the room, that's $40 per person. We don't need to codify this, but I would like a sense of the body if we simply held the meeting without any refreshments. How many people would, the money could be, all these hotel contracts have food and beverage minimums. So the money could be reallocated to hospitality somewhere else. So how many people are in favor of eliminating the Danish, etc., at these meetings in the future? Just raise your green paddles if you're a member of this board.
You want us all to raise our paddles?
Yeah, if you're in favor, let me find out how many against. How many against? All right, that seems overwhelming, so in the future, our meeting people will, next time in Memphis, you will probably be here with just water. And
Richard, it would be great if we did have water and coffee. Coffee.
Can we review the vote, because we didn't understand what was for and what was against?
I am for, raise your green paddles if you are against eliminating the continental breakfast. Against eliminating the continental breakfast. Those for eliminating the continental breakfast. Certainly there are more fors than against. Those who want just coffee, I don't know what that costs. All right, I don't know what that costs, but that'll save something. Thank you very much. Let me go on to my management report. We can have a discussion about this at the end if I raise something that people don't like. The board of directors met, and Kelly, I think, is going to start displaying the minutes of the meeting. My page numbers may not match what is displayed on the screen because I have an earlier version. But we're going to start with item 183-10. This was in this is the experimental change to knockouts at regionals to allow for smaller brackets and the designation of how many master points would be awarded for particular sizes of brackets and the multipliers. That was passed in Atlanta and it required a second reading. It was passed again. So this is basically an experiment with knockouts which has already been in place this year and has been made permanent. The second item, 183-11, master points for regular club games. This is a simplification of the computation of master points for special games at clubs, club games other than rating point games. So you either have a factor of one or, there are 1.5 factors and there are 2 factors. Again, it's now just a multiple of the basic formula instead of going to the table on how many points you get in sectionals. This was also a second reading. It's passed effective in 2020. That uses up a whole large number of pages in the meeting minutes because it was the whole thing sort of is repeated. So I need to go all the way to page 12. 183-12, no Trump announcement. A motion was made that if you open 21, no trump with 15 to 17. You do not need to make an announcement saying 15 to 17. That was defeated for various reasons. There was, for example, a concern, what if you play 14 and a half to 17, you have to make an announcement. Also, the issue that if you're playing against someone who plays variable no trumps, they announce 10 to 12 on a couple of hands, and then a few hands later in your match, they don't announce 15 to 17. People may not be aware of what's going on. There were a whole host of reasons related to unauthorized information, but this rule was left in place. 183.14 is, I'm going to skip over. 183.15 simply continues to allow non-LM sectionals, regardless of their length, to be staffed by non-ACBL directors. 183.16 flight CNAP, that was just a correction of an error made in a prior for section awards. Okay, 183.18, the base senior knockout. This was a reconsideration item from the Board of Governors. The board asked that the Board of Directors reconsider the elimination of the base senior knockout teams. That was defeated by the Board of Directors. Unfortunately, we only have 10 teams playing in that event this year, and I guess this is the final year of that event. The board, however, is going to see whether a senior knockout might be placed on the schedule of the spring or summer NABC if there's some slot available to have such an event. Next item, Grand National Teams conditions, special conditions of contest. This was also a reconsideration item. The board in the Atlanta meeting had rejected a motion to increase the number of teams in Flight B and C of the Grand National Teams from 1 team to 2 teams for a district which has at least 8 teams in those brackets, 8 teams per bracket. I'm happy to report that this time the Board of Governors approved one of our reconsideration motions, so that effective in 2019, and I think looking at the minutes, the minutes may need to be fixed. I'm telling the Board of Directors people because it refers to 2018 conditions of contest. That year is past. But certainly my understanding is that for this year's Grand Nationals, if your district has 8 teams in Flight B, a second team comes. If you have 8 teams in Flight C, a second team comes. The districts make their own decisions about subsidies to teams for these events, so districts where this is relevant, and I hope it's most districts will manage to do this, will have to decide how they're going to subsidize these extra teams. The league doesn't tell the districts what to do. I am now going to skip over to 183-42, which is on page 18 of my, that I believe Kelly's displaying it for you. This is the increase in NABC entry fees. This will be effective, because Memphis is already out there, this will be effective in Las Vegas and later. So in NABC plus events, the entry fee will be increased from $25 to $30 per player per session. For other NABC events, it will go up to $22. Regional events have not been increased in 10 years. This will go up to $20, and intermediate and novice will stay at $15 and management. The original motion, as many of you were aware, was that it would have been a higher increase in fees with the extra fee in some way rebated to the players staying in the host hotel. The board found that that was simply impractical to find a way to enforce that or to monitor that. So instead, management is given the authority to use some of the extra funds to help the people staying in the host hotel. But that's not a direction to management. Associated with this, I'm going to skip over 18343, which is just a cleanup motion. And I am going to 18345, and I'm going to come back to 44. Because associated with this is that there will, once 18345, there will once again be a $10 per session per pair, $20 per session per team screen fee for all sessions which involve the use of screens. Now, one thing that I want to make clear, and that the board made clear, if you have a 5 or 6 person team and you're playing in a team event with screen fees, it's $20. It's not higher if you have a 5 or 6 person team for this particular fee. Now let me go back to 18344, which was another reconsideration item by the requested by the Board of Governors to amend the temporary membership program which had been adopted by the league. This motion was defeated. As Joe told us, management intends to get rid of the temporary membership program because it isn't working, and has a proposal for another kind of special initial membership to try instead. 18351. This is extremely important. It's on page 23 on my report. The ACBL Board of Directors has decided to sort of offload issues involving master points to a special committee. So it'll be something like the Competitions and Conventions Committee. There's no guarantee that the Board of Directors will approve whatever the Master Point Committee says, but the hope is that it will. The formation of the committee will be 2 members appointed by the President of the ACBL, 2 members appointed by management, and 3 members appointed by the President from a list that the Chair of the Board of Governors supplies to the President. So, now this is effective immediately. So, I have been talking to players that I think may be interested. After this meeting, I would like anybody who is interested in serving on this committee to please let me know. That does not mean I'm going to name you, because I have to, I think we need some very specific criteria of people, and I am going to supply more than 3 names, because I don't want to be in the position of saying, okay, I'm going to name you, you, and you, and then the President telling me no on somebody. That would embarrass everybody. And so my intention is to provide a list of 6 names with what I believe their qualifications are, and the President will pick 3 of them, and it will be the new President, Russ Jones, who is not here today, who will be doing this. And so I want to get those names to him by the middle of December. So I will also be, for people listening on or watching this on live stream, you can, if you're interested, obviously you're not here to tell me, send me an email, rjapopper@verizon.net, expressing your interest, and I will be supplying a list of names. Next item, also very important, 183-52. There was a motion made to relocate and reduce the number of Board of Directors meetings to be effective in 2020. Basically, the motion was that there would be a meeting sometime in the winter, probably in January, the initial Board of Directors meeting to be held in near Horn Lake with interaction with staff, and the second meeting at the summer NABC, and no fall meeting. That motion did not pass. However, I have received, and again, subject to who is going to be appointed to committee to be chair of governance, I'm very hopeful and have an expectation that we will continue to have a joint task force composed of certain members of the governance committee of the Board of Directors and certain members of the Board of Governors who will work on an alternative to the how the Board of Directors conducts its business, including consideration of reducing the number of members of the Board of Directors. Not necessarily in accordance with the geographic proposal that's going to be discussed later on, but there are various other ways. We have had discussions about this over the past year. No firm conclusion has been reached, but we do have a commitment from the Board of Directors to at least discuss how to continue this. 183-53 is the Board of Directors Behavioral Code. This is simply to administratively deal with, the Board of Directors has had a procedure in place before to handle issues involving improper behavior by Board of Directors members, and this is sort of reinstituting a proper procedure to deal with that should an issue arise. 183-56, this is zonal conference. The World Bridge Federation effectively is about to no longer recognize the ACBL as the, quote, zonal authority, unquote, for North America. A new organization is in the process of being formed called the North American Bridge Federation, and this is simply a motion to recognize that they are the new authority once that is formed. Then there are some cleanup motions because involving WBF representatives from the Board of Directors, because there won't be any such persons, or there may be one, I gather, but the others will be chosen by this new body. And the next item, barring cheaters, 183-02. This was a Board of Governors motion to bar all cheaters who've been expelled from the ACBL from ever rejoining the ACBL. This motion did not pass. However, I've already spoken to the motion maker, and if he will resubmit this motion just using the word collusive cheating instead of just cheating, there's no guarantee what the Board of Directors will do, but the Board of Directors may be much more favorably inclined toward this motion if it uses the word collusive cheating, and it's also the opinion of the board that that would be a substantial change from what was just rejected. So Roger, when we get to new business, not right now, can resubmit that motion with that wording change if he wishes to do so, or if someone else wishes to do so. That's the end of my report. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to reconsideration items, etc.?
Stu Gold, District 21. On the regarding the master point committee, did you say the 3 members have to be from the Board of Governors, or they can be just anybody?
They can be just anybody, and the people I've spoken to are some of them from the Board of Governors and some of them just anybody. Although they're not just anybody. Nobody is just anybody.
Bruce Lang, District 9. Richard, if this does move forward with the North American Bridge Federation, whatever we're calling it, does that mean that we're going to stop sending money?
I'm going to defer to management or the president to answer that question.
Can you hear me? Yes. The current codification is we will continue to fund the NBOs. So there's no provision to fund the NABF or whatever the new organization is.
Even though we no longer are the recognized authority?
Right, so I'm not saying that's going to be permanent, but right now there is no other, it's proposed NABF. When that comes into being, I'm sure the board will act to respond to that.
Steve Rose, District 11. On the NABF formation, what impact does that have on ACBL's governance and role in managing the rules of bridge for what used to be our zone?
We're talking theoretics at this point, so it's kind of hard to respond. But the rule, I don't understand how you believe the NABF is going to affect the rules of bridge.
My understanding is the WBF sees itself as the sole owner of the rules of bridge, but the ACBL has had precedence and has been formulating the rules, and Zone 2 has had quite a bit of authority in that. When the WBF consolidates its position in the Americas, will that change?
Don't answer.
Hello, I'm Cornelia Gould from District 21. I just had a question about the fee increase for planning tournaments starting next year. It seems to me if we're seeing a significant decline in people attending tournaments, that increasing the fees that much might be a further deterrent. Just a thought.
Okay, I think the board considered that the regional fee increases regional fees have not gone up in 10 years, and there's very little in life, unfortunately, that has not gone up in 10 years. On the NABC Plus events, we believe, or I think the board believes, most of those players, or the vast majority of those players, are going to continue to attend the tournament. I can ask Joe, but I think he has a number on how much this is likely to help the bottom line.
Right, so it's a significant increase, actually. It's about $380,000 just for next year. The cost of the plus events to put on are much higher than the regular regional events. So the increase in fees reflects that added cost for surveillance and space and tournament directors and all those things.
Okay, if there are no more questions about my report, we're going to move to motions for reconsideration.
Oh, Richard, I do have one question, I guess, if we're not going on.
Joyce from District 17. There was no mention of the fragrance policy.
Okay, the fragrance policy was considered in committee, and I may have to call upon someone from the NABC, was it NABC review? That was one of the, I do go to committee meetings, but they're held at the same time. I couldn't get to that one. Is Susie in the room?
Yes.
Okay, Susie, may I ask you to report on that? Thank you.
I can only report it when my clothes blowing. The fragrance policy, Joy, was seriously considered, and we are implementing what is a policy. We are starting with advertising and awareness, which we think is really important. It's very difficult to try to actually enforce having people with sense. We can't send directors around the room sniffing. I mean, it seriously is a problem. And I know it sounds funny, but we don't mean it to be funny. We are going to explain to people, make them aware that there are people that cannot breathe. There are serious medical issues. Asking them, the one thing in the policy that may be effective to deal with is seating rights in situations where somebody has used even just a soap that has a scent and someone can't deal with it. Seating rights will have to be waived so that the person who can't breathe does not have to play the person with the scent. Beyond that, we're going to start by making people aware, start by asking them to respect us. We will send things to districts and units, put it in the bulletins. Management has worked very hard with us, coming up with ideas and things that they believe they can implement, and we're moving from there. It's not in the form of a motion, it's in the form of the way we want the league to move to the benefit of our membership. I don't know if I can help any more than that. The smoking issue is really difficult, because we're going to have tournaments in places like Reno and Vegas. You just can't avoid walking through areas with smoke, and when you walk in, that sense is there. So we're kind of dealing at this point with fragrances as opposed to smoke, and it's a start, and we'll see what we can do. We're definitely taking it seriously.
Well, okay, I have a question.
Will the directors be empowered to take action if, say, someone in an event is dousing themselves in perfume and there's a lot of complaints? Right now, we do have something in the CDR for body odor, and there was not a concern about a sniff test or directors walking around for that. And that's another one of those things, you know it when you smell it. Same with perfume. I don't see much of a distinction between a CDR reference that covers body odor and empowers the directors to take action, and one that covers scents, like strong scents like perfumes and things like that.
I believe that if it is possible to take an action, not exposing us to some sort of damages by doing it, we definitely will take it. We will certainly ask them to wash it off and so on. But we aren't planning, we aren't going to deduct master points or anything at this point. We don't have a plan of attack involving bridge and so on. We're hoping that people in this organization care about each other, and we are hoping that when we make people aware of this, that it will naturally work.
So will the directors be empowered or not?
They would be empowered to ask someone to wash, am I right, Linda? I mean, it's not possible.
Is this a legal issue? If you have a disclaimer, if you have announcements everywhere that says fragrance free, no fragrance, and someone wears fragrance and the director says you're not required to play against that person, is that illegal? Does that now constitute a legal issue? I mean, people can sue for anything, but is that your concern?
No, I don't think the concern is completely legal. The concern is that you can't, somebody could use soap in a bath, and the soap can have a scent, and it could have a scent on one person and not on another. And the problem is attempting to enforce something. If you actually put out perfume or some other fragrance that is heavy, yes, I'm sure we would ask them to leave the room and try to remove it. But realistically, there isn't an easily enforceable policy. Our directors are not comfortable with this, among other things, walking up to someone and saying, I'm sorry, you smell. It's very difficult. They're hoping that by advertising this and asking people not to,
Okay.
then even players would ask each other, I'm sorry, I can't
I guess
breathe.
we can talk about this more offline.
Right.
Yeah.
We're already at 11 o'clock. I need to move on to other things.
I don't know if this is working, but you have the rights under the CDR and under the law of duplicate bridge with this issue, just like you have for any other issue that comes up. So the director can apply it in their own judgment and their discretion, utilizing those laws as they do for anything else.
So there could be something put into the CDR?
No, I'm saying as CDR as it stands now, they can use it the way it's currently written for bodies in their discretion.
Okay, thank you.
Jay Applebaum, Philadelphia. I have to support Joanne on this one.
Thank you.
Happily, actually. Just because a policy is difficult to write and difficult to enforce, it still falls to us to find some way to do that. Fear of consequences should not dissuade us from coming up with something.
All right, thank you. Are there motions for reconsideration of any of the items, any of the Board of Directors' decisions at this meeting? Roger will take you under new business, unless you have a motion for reconsideration. Okay, no motions for reconsideration. We're going to move on to the motions, and I need to go onto my iPad for a second to get them in the right order, but I'm pretty sure, Steve, you were the first with the old business. We deferred the free entries for top recruiters till you and Kathy McNabb could work on revising that. I know you talked to each other. Kathy actually represented District 1 as second alternate at the Board of Directors this meeting. So I could call on her, but she technically can't talk unless I call on her, so Steve will present the revised motion as quickly as you can, please.
Richard, I would be happy to do that. This is Steve Mose from District 11. I just have one question. I have two brief status reports from two boards
want to
and
give
governors
those
committee.
quickly. And
Might I do that first?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Thank you. David Rodney asked me to give the status report for the Analytics Committee. It's comprised of 14 people, all volunteers. So I'm going to cut to the chase on his report. We have asked ACBL leadership for their input on what we should analyze. This has been a gradual process. People find it hard to articulate specific issues they would like analyzed, and many people don't seem to know what to make of this. A committee of volunteers outside of the usual ACBL administrative channels. Nevertheless, we've made some progress. We've been asked by the Board of Directors to continue the analysis of regional attendance that was conducted by the Tournament Task Force in 2017. The purpose of this analysis will be to produce conclusions and actionable recommendations regarding how best to address declining attendance. Horn Lake is providing us data from their databases in support of this analysis. We anticipate having some results to share at the Memphis NABC. Point number 2, we have received a lot of interest in conducting surveys of members, especially newer members. This interest stemmed from the results of a recent District 18 survey of members provided to the committee by one of our members, Tom Romine. I hope I have Tom's last name pronounced properly. We've circulated the report to the Board of Directors and District Presidents and received a lot of favorable feedback and interest in conducting surveys in other parts of the ACBL. I expect that we will be supporting some surveys in the months ahead. Point number 3, and this is the final one. We have had numerous discussions and exchange of ideas regarding analysis in support of increasing membership. Nothing concrete to report here, but we hope to address such issues in the months ahead. Now, what I'd like to add personally is a personal vote of thanks to Jay Whipple, who within, I want to say 3 weeks of Atlanta, had up and running a tool that gave us the ability to search where new members are coming from. And to the extent we want to create heat maps and show where people are being recruited, so that from a marketing perspective, we know where to focus our energy and effort. And that tool is available. it works extremely well, in my humble opinion. And it's something that I think anybody with an interest in growing bridge ought to have access to. You can find a link to it on the Board of Governors forum on bridge winners. Okay, so my next update is from the Teacher and Club Committee. 3 points of news. The Education Foundation is looking for ideas worth funding that will attract and create new bridge players in large numbers. Please contact Betty Starzik. New Best Practices Teaching Workshop shifts focus from what to teach to how to teach. The expectation is that teachers will be more than proficient at the game. We're not looking for novice players to become teachers. There is a proficiency check at the end of training to pass certification. And Jay Whipple and the Common Game, as I just mentioned, have provided the new member statistics tool. Major issues. Prospects. What are prospects? Finding prospective new bridge players is hard work. Big clubs have staff and resources. Little clubs depend on members and unit assistance. This is often hit or miss. We need a solution that works for both. Welcome fun is a major issue. How we welcome new bridge players is inconsistent. We lack data, but we see little use of social bridge programs and inconsistent use of OSHA lifelong learning and other adult education platforms across the zone. We see less emphasis on fun for newcomers and more on expertise. If true, we have this backwards. Fun brings people back to the game. Newcomer games. We see far fewer 0 to 20 or fewer Master Point games across our zone than membership head count indicates would be appropriate. We construe that clubs who just run games are not doing the work to help newer players find the fun in bridge. Point number 4, supporting effective recruiters. Large clubs invest substantial effort and money in creating successful programs that attract, train, and retain bridge players. However, these clubs often have high overheads and are victims of quote-unquote low-price bridge clubs who do none of the recruiting work, but gain new players as a benefit and tend to attract trained players because they can offer significantly lower player fees or entry fees. Since controlling sanctions by geography is problematic, large clubs and successful recruiters want compensation for new members that they create, who return as players year after year. Issue number 5, price competition. If a low-price club does no recruiting or teaching, should it pay the same low sanction fee to the ACBL as the clubs who invest in recruiting and teaching? So here are the recommendations. We recommend, first of all, Richard, with your agreement, we recommend extending the charter of this committee for 2 more years.
Yes, and the people who are on it, I'm reappointing them to continue to serve.
Thank you very much. Number 2, all clubs encourage social bridge or social card games as part of their local activity. Social bridge is a source of new players for duplicate. Clubs and teachers should work closely together to engage prospects in their area. It's an important partnership to encourage. It is not a competition. Number 3, that the ACBL consider making a teaching game and all 0 to 20 games, that's 0 to any Master Point holding under 20, free. No per table or per person sanction fees. You'll have a sanction fee up front to understand, but no per person or per table sanction fees for 3 years. Clubs need to encourage newcomers to play everywhere. Now, I don't have statistics, but Jay, I think you told me that of the almost 1,000 clubs that do common game, we have 90 that do 0 to 20 games. Is that right?
It's probably less.
It's probably less. The point is, 0 to 20 Master Point holders represent a full quarter of the membership population, but we're under 5% of the game, so there is a disconnect there that does not make sense. Point number 4, that the club's teachers and units study their new member recruiting work process. How do people engage bridge in your area? Make sure that they can get immediate contacts and options, that the welcome plan works for people who never played bridge, as well as the social player or those returning to duplicate yet again. and that taking on bridge as a pastime is a low-risk proposition for the prospective member. Treat them nice. And point number 5, that the ACBL redirect 10 to 20% of its membership dues. I want to preface this last point by saying this is clearly coming from the largest clubs in the ACBL. So this is the point of view of the largest clubs who believe they are investing substantial effort, time, and energy in growing membership. That the ACBL redirect 10 to 20% of the membership dues for years 2 to 3, and 5 to 10% of the dues from years 4 to 11 to the original sponsor of a new member. This will support clubs and units that invest money and effort in creating new members and partially mitigate the effects of predatory price competition in their immediate area. And we note that temporary memberships, returning lapsed members, and dropouts do not count toward this rebate. That's the end of our submission. None of the recommendations are proposals at this point, Mr. Chairman. We will bring those up in Memphis.
Okay, thank you. Why don't you move directly on to the first motion? And we have a lot to do and very limited time left.
Okay.
Your first motion is very detailed.
Yes, I will try to do a very high-level view of it, okay?
Yes, go with just a high-level view.
So the high-level view is that we would like to recognize the top sponsors of new members every year with a series of paid entry fees for the fall national tournament, the fall NABC tournament. We want to make sure that the top up to 5 recruiters in terms of total heads recruited get recognized. And then we want to split the units into 3 tertiles by population. So the top tertile, representing 18 units, would have one group that would compete among themselves. The mid tertile, which I believe is representing 56 units, would be next, and then the remaining 200 or so would be the third tertile. And there would be recognition awards within each of those tertiles, with the exception that anybody winning the total head count cannot also win the top tertile, mid tertile, or bottom tertile award. You don't win twice. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the idea.
Is there anyone who is willing to second Steve's motion? Ryan Trent. Any discussion of this motion? They put a lot of work into it.
Very quickly, 2 Point District 19. This is a friendly amendment attempt. Is the award for these recruiters in the form of free plays for NABC sessions? Is that what I'm doing?
I'm sorry, I have 2 people talking to me at once. Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, Tim White, District 19. A friendly amendment attempt here. Is the award to the recruiters in the form of NABC session free plays? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Can we make those transferable? So in the event the recruiter can't do it, they can use it as a further promotional opportunity to the people they brought in? We can't do that?
This is meant to recognize
I understand. I'm just saying, we say, just insert the word transferable replay. That's just my suggestion.
Just briefly, Richard. This is.
Well, first of all, we need to find out whether the motion maker accepts that amendment.
As long as they are transferable, but still must be used in the NABC immediately after the award is made, we're fine.
Okay, I'm going to give you my personal viewpoint on that proposed amendment, which is that it now is basically giving money to the recruiters because they can transfer them to anybody. I think it might make it harder to get the board of directors to approve it if we make that amendment. That's just my personal viewpoint, but I'm going to recognize you, Brian.
Okay. In 30 years of working with various associations and being in the association community, this is the only organization that I know of that only recognizes attendance and not recruitment. And if you're looking for the funds, you can easily take it out of this money that's being poured into units at 10% or something. At least in my unit's case, just simply banks the money and lets it sit there, all right? This is so important, and I can't understand the work that Steve has done and the new direction it needs to be taken by the board.
Can you get closer to the mic?
Okay, sorry. This is the only organization that doesn't recognize membership. It only recognizes attendance, because playing for master points is basically attendance. And if you're going to increase the membership, you need to recognize the people that bring you the new members. Okay, you're putting 10% into units. That's most of these units just bank the money. You need to be, I mean, Steve's motion is so important. I can't understate how important it is that this organization needs a new focus. You can already see the numbers going down. And the only way you're going to do it, like any insurance company or anybody else, is you're going to recognize the people that bring in the new members. In fact, in most organizations, the highest honor you can have is bringing in the most members, not the people that win master points. Because people that win master points are not for the lifeblood of the organization. The lifeblood of the organization is the people that bring in the new members, and we have zero recognition and zero incentives for it.
Okay. I'm going to, I'll go ahead very briefly, but we have several more to go through.
I wonder how this motion fits in with what Joe just talked about with the improved recruitment incentive of $10 a year for the first 3 years for new members, or the people who recruit new members. It seems to be that they're both in the same category.
Yeah, the board is going to have to reconcile those two if this motion passes. So we can vote on this motion as amended with the friendly amendment. All those in favor, please raise your green paddles and hold them up. Let me get all against, because this looks pretty overwhelming. All against. Motion passes. You don't agree? Yeah, no, I think that this was overwhelmingly. The motion passes as amended. Next motion, I think, is also yours, Steve, and then after that, there's another motion maker. So, go
again,
ahead.
I will be very brief. What we just rewarded were, in all likelihood, people who work at clubs or who teach and who can take prospects off the street and turn them into members through engaging them in fun classes and fun games, and that's perfectly necessary and right to do. However, there is much history and very little data about where new members really come from, and they really come from word of mouth and associations with friends and family. So this incentive is all about providing a cash award toward one's dues at the ACBL for members who refer people that become members of the ACBL. So this is about Steve Mose referring to his buddy Jeff Bayonne, somebody who lives in New York City, goes to Jeff, takes classes at Jeff's club, joins the ACBL. Steve gets a referral bonus against his ACBL dues. That would be the idea. Okay? So this is about the very first step in the process of finding a prospect, and that's the very first referral. And incentivizing that is what we really want to do if we want to get more people coming through the door. Okay? So if I have the language in front of me, ACBL should reward the members in good standing who refers prospects to teacher clubs, units, districts, or the ACBL when these prospects either sign up for a multiple-year membership or renew a one-year membership. Temporary memberships do not count, nor does updating the temporary membership to 1 full year. The focus is on years 2 and 3. For every referral or prospect who becomes a new member and meets the continuing membership criteria outlined above, the referral member shall receive a $10 credit toward renewing their own membership with the ACBL. The credit shall apply for a maximum of 2 years if the new member renews for years 2 and 3. The referring party may not earn more than $50 in a given year, regardless of the number of successful referrals they create. And the maximum award is $20 per new member based on 3 years membership dues. The credit is payable in the year.
Okay. And now I think this also will need to be reconciled with management's already existing proposals. Do we have anybody else who wishes to speak for or against this motion? Walter, if you wish to, please go to the mic.
Second.
Yes, can we have a second?
Got it.
I was told I need a parliamentarian, and Linda will keep me in line here. Thank you.
Walter Mitchell, District 4. I may have missed this somewhere along the line, but this using of these free plays at the fall NABC, what's significant about the fall? Why not any NABC, say, within the next 12 months?
That goes to the past motion.
I understand. I'm trying to catch up with things because I may want to add a motion for this one that has effect.
Okay, well, we can let Steve speak very briefly to that because it's a business water.
In brief, the notion was that the award would be made at the summer NABC and executed in the NABC immediately after. So that would lead to the fall. You can't go. You get the recognition, but you don't get the money.
Okay, on the motion which Steve just presented, is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please raise your green paddles. Again, it looks fairly overwhelming. All those against? Okay, motion passes. Next motion, I apologize. This is the motion on the Jane Johnson Club Game Award. The gentleman who submitted this, please come to the mic.
Tom Moore, District 16. This is a motion to extend the Jane Johnson Club Appreciation Team throughout the year rather than just October. For those who are not familiar with this, it's gold points, 0.5%, and up to 0.25. This has been very instrumental, at least in our club and many others, to getting in people into imp games, especially the younger players. So the amendment is to make the team game basically the same as the membership game that we do every year.
And so your motion is to allow clubs to run this game during any month. Currently, they may run it only during October.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a second to this motion? Nobody's willing to second this motion? Okay, thank you. All right, is there discussion on this motion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your green paddles. To allow clubs to run this game during any month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Opposed? Okay, motion fails. Thank you. Next motion is from Jay Applebaum and is being withdrawn because something already allowed. Yes.
I just want to get confirmation from management. Saul Weinstein, who is as knowledgeable as anybody on the point, said that this can be done. It is to run a sectional where A is at one site and B is at specific designated sites. He said that's currently allowed. If it is, I'm withdrawing the motion. Is it currently allowed?
I defer to Saul, he is the expert, but I'll follow up with him.
I'm sorry?
I defer to Saul.
Okay, thank you. I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you. The next, we have a discussion item, but I think, Roger, you wanted to make a motion, so we'll go with that one next.
Thank you, Roger Smith, District 21. We passed the motion in Atlanta, but the board has come back to us and said, please change a word or two and send it back to us. It may get better consideration than it did this time. So for cheating, where if you've been convicted of cheating, you are not allowed to ever come back. What they want it to be collusive cheating. So the motion that Richard mentioned earlier, we're only changing, but it's a new motion, collusive cheating. Then, if you were convicted of collusive cheating, you could not be brought back. But we need a second. This is a new motion, we need a second, and hopefully short discussion to save time. Because we already passed a similar thing last time.
Yeah, so the motion is simply, what the Board of Governors adopted last time was a motion that basically if you are convicted of cheating, and it wasn't defined more specifically than that, you could never come back into the league. The Board of Directors did not adopt that, but it was suggested to me that if the same motion was submitted restricted to collusive cheating, not necessarily pass, but it will receive a more favorable reception. So we have a motion and a second on that. Can we have discussion?
Jay Applebaum, sorry to keep bothering everybody. I think the problem with collusive cheating, like anything else, is that we're dealing with human beings. And yes, make it as tough as you want for someone to earn the way back. But we had a famous case from many, many decades ago where someone did earn their way back. And to say that they can never earn their way back just runs against the very nature of the human being. They have to have a way, however tough you want to make it as tough as you want, but it has to be possible for someone who really, really wants to earn their way back. So I speak against this motion.
Is there further discussion on this motion?
Well, then I can't help but say, remember everybody in prison gets religion because it may get them out faster? That's what I'm afraid of with this one. You know, to me, this game is for us, and we don't cheat. And if people come in and cheat, I don't ever want to see them again. I hate sitting down, looking at an opponent who I know was convicted of cheating a while back and got to come back. And that's why we have the motion.
Okay, Joanne.
Joanne's from District 17. I know I never express my opinions on things. But I am strongly in favor of this motion. It is my understanding that the league somebody has decided to allow Lanzarote back in. Is that correct?
That is correct. He has been readmitted.
Okay. If someone like Lanzarote is allowed back into the league, then obviously we need a rule that says he can't come back. And I am strongly in favor of this motion. It should not be left up to individual discretion or a committee's discretion. There should be a rule. Thank you.
Doug Kochman, District 21. This is more than, I understand the desire for redemption and the possibility of redemption and so forth, but it's also about prevention. We have a problem enough incentivizing against cheating because it is so hard to catch and it's just going to get harder. And one part of making it really costly to cheat, or really a bad thing to cheat, it's a probabilistic calculation. Am I going to get caught? All we can really do is, one, try to work harder on catching them, but two, make it more damaging when we do. And so I speak in favor of the motion. I don't even think it's going to be enough, but it's something we can do. Ban them forever.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. So the motion is basically, and we'll have Roger submit specific wording to Kelly, but it will be like the text of the current motion with just the words collusive cheating added. If you are in favor of this motion, please raise your green paddles. Let me get the against. Those against, I'm sorry. Motion passes. Okay. We have one discussion item, but I think probably if there are any other motions, and I think Joanne, you wanted to make one. Sounded like you wanted to make one, so let's get those through. And you wish to make one, you're at the mic, so go ahead.
I certainly do. Hello, my name is Gloria McDevitt. I'm actually here with my daughter who is sleeping on the floor because I'm here to speak about the importance of child care at the Rich Nationals. I don't know how many of you are aware, but the child care here in Honolulu was pulled 9 days before we were due to arrive, I think. Thanksgiving Day. I had emailed the Comptons, Donna Compton, who I understand has been running the child care program successfully for 2 decades. Back in August, letting her know that we were coming, we were bringing our 1-year-old daughter, you know, this was our first nationals together as a family since she was born. My husband and I met in 2001 at the MIT Village Club. We have been playing for almost 2 decades now. We have run to 46 nationals combined. You know, when we come, we play for 10 days, sometimes we'll play 4 sessions a day. And having a child and not having childcare definitely prohibits us from doing that. So 9 days before we were due to arrive, I get an email from Donna saying, I'm so sorry, childcare has been canceled due to insurance issues. And then, on the ACBL website, the next day, the statement about childcare was, sorry, we're canceling it because there were limited advance bookings. Never mind the fact that there was no mechanism to book in advance. There's nothing that says you have to email ahead, you have to pay ahead, you have to let someone know. In fact, when I emailed Donna in August, she said, oh, I don't have the agencies yet, you know, let me know when you arrive. So even though I attempted to pre-book exactly the dates that I wanted childcare for, she said there's no mechanism to do that. And I know that other people who have come to Hawaii and actually have left early because of lack of childcare said, I've been using the childcare for years. Never did I have to pre-book. I would just text her when I arrived and Donna would say, great. So the childcare was pulled early. The story about why, first it was insurance, then it was limited child bookings, limited bookings, and then when Mr. Whipple was emailed, he gave another explanation about how our lawyers say that it's too big of a risk and we shouldn't be in the child care business anyways. And then there's a 4th explanation about how we were told 3 weeks before by the hotel that we had to have liability insurance because of this. And we made every effort, got the paperwork, we gave it to the Comptons, and the Comptons said, there's only one family that pre-booked, so let's not do it anyways. Throwing the Comptons under the bus. Then, if you look again now, basically it says, there's no child care, you know, here's the website and the phone number for you to, you know, find child care. However, the child care that's provided by the hotel is just an outside agency, and it's limited till 10 o'clock. Rich goes to 11. So what is left to do? My child is here with me right now. Wouldn't it be great if there was child care so that I could speak to this without my child sleeping on the floor of a ballroom? You know, I'm here, this is my first meeting, I'm here by proxy, and I've heard a lot of talk about how do we get new members, how do we sign up new people, how do we recruit new people? How about keeping the members you have? You know, like I said, I've been playing for almost 2 decades. You know, I'm 40. I probably have another 40, you know, years of bridge playing with him. My husband as well. How about working to keep young parents? You have a lot of juniors. They're going to have kids at some point. They need childcare, or do you plan to lose them as well?
Okay,
My understanding from the, so that when I emailed Mr. Whipple and asked him, you know, the statement you made about the lawyer saying it's not our business to be in child care anyways, it sounds like you don't plan to provide child care at any future nationals. And in fact, the Memphis website has now been pulled. So does that mean we should just not plan on going to any more rich nationals because child care is now gone?
Yeah, do you want to make a motion on this?
My motion is that the board come up with a policy for and an acceptable, I guess, I don't know how I should word it. I think the ACBL should recognize how important young families are and how crucial it is to keep the people, my cohort, playing the game. You know, and you know, my daughter's first number that she could say was 13. You know, we're going to teach her how to play bridge. We're going to teach her little friends how to play bridge. If you want to keep the game alive, it's critical for you to continue to support.
Okay,
I don't know what the wording is for a policy or a motion or a committee, but
a suggestion?
Yes, please.
Move that the ACBL have child care options available at every NABC.
Thank you. So,
all right. Now, what I've been told by Linda, and you can write this up and send it to me, but we need, with your motion, if it's approved, we need a discussion of why it should be approved. So you can send me an email that says that. So let me first see whether we can get a second for this motion. Second, okay. Any further discussion on this motion? All right, all those in favor, basically the motion is the ACBL.
Richard, I want to speak in strong support of the motion, and I want to offer that from an NABC practical perspective, I think this should be the responsibility of the host district and not the ACBL to make sure that adequate services are provided.
Jim Calhoun, District 17. I think this motion speaks to what we've been discussing all along. How do we increase our membership? Our age is 71 years, our average age. We need the 40-year-olds. Let's give them what they need so that they can build this game further on.
All right. Thank you very much. Can I have a show of hands? It already looked like I was getting, this was going to be strongly favored.
This is for in favor? Is that what you're
This is
saying?
if you're in favor of the ACBL having a child care policy.
No, no.
Child care, not policy, but child care available. All those opposed? Okay, so if you could write me an email, rjapopper@verizon.net, just with a discussion item of why this should be approved. This will go in with your motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a discussion item, I think, and we do need to get to that. Are there any other motions that anybody wishes to make? All right, go ahead, Steve. We're already at 11:40. We need to end this meeting within 10 minutes tonight, and we have other stuff we have to do.
Thanks, Richard. I will be very brief. What we present as a discussion item today is for the benefit of all of the Board of Governors to get their thinking sharpened and to get feedback to Margot Hennings and the Governance Committee and Task Force that exists for figuring out what the optimum design for governance for the ACBL ought to be. So the three ideas that were presented in the document that you should see on the website, take a look at regional or geographic representation only. We are not discussing representation by stakeholders or representation by strategic capability, both of which topics are going to be discussed in great detail by the Governance Committee. So the three proposals that we have for discussion are two 8-zone proposals, which assume that a 9th Board of Directors trustee would be selected from the Board of Governors. The difference between the two ideas is that both have 8 zones of about equal membership population. One separates Canada into its own zone. So districts 19 and is it 17 would no longer have Canada as part of their districts. So, 18, or 18, I'm sorry. Let me look at my own detail here, sorry about that. But there are maps available so you can see what this looks like if you take a look at the proposal on the website. So there are two 8-zone proposals, one that separates Canada into its own zone and one that does not. And then there is a 9-zone proposal that does not have a person elected from the Board of Governors to serve. And that 9-zone proposal joins the geographies in a slightly different fashion and results in slightly less variance among the zones. So you get a more even representation, if you will. It does not isolate Canada from the U.S. or Mexico. So those are the three ideas. Margot Hennings has received these three ideas, and we're having very, very, very constructive conversations with her. I want to thank her. If she's in the audience, Margot, thank you. I don't know exactly where you might be. But this is something that we as a Board of Governors ought to be sharing our best advice and counsel to the Board of Directors and the task force as they move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the committee has been discussing other ideas involving a restructure of the role both of the Board of Governors and of the Board of Directors that aren't necessarily geographically based. This is just one option, and we certainly, if something new is going to happen, we also have to determine a transition plan. Is there any other business to come before this board? If not, I'm going to call on Sandy.
I would like to move, second, that all members who have achieved Life Master status be designated as Life Master. I would also like the Board of Governors to extend their thanks and appreciation to District 20 and all its volunteers, District Director Merlin Willauer, and Tournament Chair Muriel Stitt. Also, we would like to thank the Hilton Hawaiian Village for its fine service and support and encouragement. But most of all, I would like you to all go out there, be as competitive as you like, but be friendly, caring, and ethical. Thank you.
Do we have a second for Sandy's motion? Second. Approval, all in favor? Thank you. All right, I would ask, the motion carries. I would ask that we have the bridge meeting staff out ready to help reset the room, but please help our ACBL employees who do so much to help make these meetings successful by, if you put tables together, please reset them where they came from, and please clean up your trash.
Motion to adjourn.
And return the paddles. The meeting is